Hello, welcome back to the Megan Dauber podcast. I am Megan, and I am so grateful that you are choosing to join me back here again. This is episode 9 of me taking us on the journey of what life looks like for me and my family post-injury, accident, brain injury for Michael. If you have been following along with me for the last 8 episodes so far, I just want to pause and ask for you to give me a 5-star review. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, or even if you listen somewhere else or watch somewhere else and know how to access podcasts on Apple, would you give me a 5-star review? I make it no secret that I set out to do this for myself, for my kids, for my family, and I also want to take this podcast industry seriously, and 5-star reviews just help validate what I'm doing. Those of you who know us and have followed along our CaringBridge journey since last year, you know that I am now the sole provider for our family. Michael no longer works. We do not have an income anymore. He was done working the second he got hurt. So this is all, I went and got my real estate license to pick up as a realtor, ideally where Michael left off, but that is a slow roll and challenging. And it's a new world for me to do that as well. But I have every hope and intention of building this podcast as a business, as a form of income for me and my family. And I truly love what I am doing here. This is the one thing in my life that I choose to do. This is entirely my vision and my choice and a creative outlet for me. So I would love to be able to just continue to do this and see where the Lord takes it and what he wants to do with it. So that simple act of a 5-star review would be incredibly helpful and supportive for me. You don't even have to write a verbal review, but if you want to, guess what? I read them. It is just me running this. I create, produce, edit, write, all that. It's just me. And I read them, and I read the messages you send me, and I love them, and they're super encouraging. If you have your own story you want to share, write it. I will see it. But yes, a 5-star review would be awesome. Thank you for considering that. I appreciate you letting me plug that here. So I'm going to dive into episode 9, where we kind of left off. Michael and I are at the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Our first full week of therapy is under our belt. We are kind of in this discovery phase of where Michael is. And we're learning like what he's capable of, what are his restrictions, what are going to be the challenges, how do I handle him, what is best, what does he need, all of this we're just discovering minute by minute, truly. Michael, a lot of his personality actually kind of began to show through right away, which was such a gift, because I know with a lot of brain injuries, you can go either way. You can wake up as an entirely different person. You can wake up angry. You can wake up not remembering a thing about who you are. However, there seemed to be some core Michael things that remained intact, such as he would love to wander around our hospital floor with me and his care partner that would sit outside his room 24 hours a day. We would wander the hallways, and Michael would walk and just kind of aimlessly walk, except for when we got to the front at the nurse's station and kind of the reception desk area. He would walk straight up to the desk, kind of lean on the countertop and say, "Is there anything I can do to help you? What can I do for you? How are you doing? What do you need?" He would check in with them to see how he could help them, which was very much Michael, because he spent some time working for corporate Chick-fil-A, running corporate-owned stores. And in Chick-fil-A, you are customer service minded, always looking to see how you can help your customer, how you can help the people around you, help your employees. And then that same thing, he moved into running restaurants in Virginia Beach, and same thing, customer service mindset. How can I help you? What can I do for you? And he would do that in the hospital. And it was just so cute. Like the nurses would just, go along with it, have the conversation. But thanks so much. No, Michael, we're good. And I have a cute picture I'll share on Instagram of him behind the counter with one of his friends just posing like, "Hey, how can I help you?" So that was really sweet to see him, but also at the same time, like sad, because that was a perfect example of he did not recognize why he was there. He did not recognize that he was the reason that they were working, right? We also saw a lot of word confusion happening where he would not be able to come up with the word, or he would use an entirely wrong word to describe something, just like the jumble of things happening in his brain. Alexis speech therapy described it as like his filing cabinet that normally exists in his brain has just been dumped upside down, and all the papers and all the files are just scattered around, and it's his job to sort through them and find them, and it's very difficult. So at one point we were alone, and he was looking in at the pile of photographs that we had in his room, and he came up, he like took a picture and held it up to me and described it with a word that I will not say on here because I don't want to have to rate this episode as explicit content. But he just used that word, and I was like, I don't, this is a picture. You mean a picture? And he's like, yes, a picture. So just the word confusion was happening. It was hard for him to finish sentences. And then we FaceTimed the boys at one point that week, and he was actually very sweet towards the boys during this FaceTime conversation, which was encouraging. I'll get to that in a minute. But after we hung up, you could see he was like confused, like pointing at the phone. And he said, I want to go there. And like he was able to actually finish that sentence. You know, what we can imagine, like, what was he saying to me? Was he saying, you know, why are we separated, or how do I get to the boys, or when do I get to see them, or I want to go home? Did he recognize where they were? I mean, it was hard because when kids FaceTime you, they're like I don't know, giraffes at a feeding zoo, right? Like they're just up in your face on the phone. You can't see anything else happening around it. So I don't know if he knew that they were home and he wasn't, but he definitely wanted to go to where they were. But also, again, not understanding this is a FaceTime. That was a virtual conversation. You are in a hospital. The boys are far away. So it was this discovery phase this whole week of where Michael is. So aside from the sweet parts of his personality coming through, he was also incredibly frustrated at his restraints and restrictions. He did not like, I know I mentioned the emergency or the security bracelet that was tacked onto his arm. He did not like being restrained in his bed at night. He still had the wrist restraints and the waist belt restraint. He couldn't be independent to go anywhere on his own. He didn't like that he couldn't leave the building, which is why he has a security tag on him in the first place. So those frustrations were a little bit more settled while we were in therapy. But then when we would get walked back to our room and it was just me and him, he was very upset, not at me, but with me. And the fact that he didn't like my answers, he would get upset. Like, why can't I take this off? Why can't I go out there? Why can't I do this? And he didn't like my answers of, well, babe, you're a patient in the hospital. We're getting help. We've got to stay. You need this on. And he was just very upset and angry a lot of the time, which was really hard for me observing, and just like it was a burden to bear that I couldn't make any better on him. And I couldn't get frustrated with him because he didn't have the mental capacity to understand where we were and why the scenarios were as they were. It was hard. So at nighttime, it got harder and harder and harder to get him to lay down, get him to go to bed, get him to stay asleep. He could not move around again, remember? So the doctor gently encouraged me to consider doing an enclosed bed. So what an enclosed bed is, imagine a pack and play, like upside down on top of the hospital bed with a zipper and a mesh wall that locks from the outside. So it sounds and looks a little inhumane that you are locked in your bed at night. But the idea is that it gives you freedom within those boundaries. So his wrists didn't have to be locked down. He didn't have to wear the belt thing anymore. He could toss and turn in his sleep. He could even sit up in the bed, just like you see your little ones sitting up in a pack and play. I mean, it was very similar. I still don't know how I feel about it. It was really hard to look at. Now, we kept the sides open during the day so we could sit on the bed and, I could help him put him down to rest, or we would turn tennis on the television. I watched a lot of tennis. I think Indian Wells was on that time in March. And so I learned a whole lot, and that was like the most that we could watch was just low key sports. They didn't want him watching any television because brain injury patients, especially ones as profoundly confused as Michael, could get confused with the, opposite of reality that they saw on television. They're like, just watch sports. Don't watch Star Wars. Don't watch anything that could confuse his integration of where he is and all that. So it made sense. So anyway, we watched a lot of tennis from the enclosed bed, and that you can imagine at night when we finally got him in the enclosed bed, he did not like being locked in. That was hard to watch. However, I knew that it would promote a better night's rest because he was more comfortable in there. So anyway, we brought the enclosed bed in. That was added to the routine, and it looked worse than it actually was. That week also, I met with the family counselor for the first time. And one of the days when Michael was taken to a therapy session, I actually stayed back in the room and she met with me. And one of her first questions to me was, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And I remember telling her, I feel like a ninja. I feel like I am constantly fighting off bad guys, fighting off fear, fighting off thoughts of the future, fighting Michael, fighting being an advocate for him, fighting off just, you name it, just constantly vigilant and waiting for the next thing to pop out around the corner. Like just this idea of I was not resting and I was like mentally on the ball and just like a ninja. And she looked at me and she said, I have seen and heard a lot of things here at Shepherd Center, but I've never heard anyone describe themselves as a ninja before. But it makes a lot of sense. Your body has been in fight or flight mode for a very long time, and you're still operating from that place of fight or flight, and you're clearly fighting, and you're fighting for clarity. You're fighting for peace of mind. You're fighting to just stay focused. So the way you describe yourself as a ninja makes perfect sense to me. And I remember journaling about that later that night. And honestly, over a year later, I still feel that way, like operating in this mode of fight or flight responses. Sometimes I don't always sit in that place anymore because I have, healed more, but it still comes up these days. So counseling was incredibly helpful. That's where she first introduced the idea of ambiguous loss and ambiguous grief. She gave me this framework to begin to understand these big feelings, these feelings of loss and grief, and like why I was so upset, even though my husband was alive and next to me. Like I had to understand where all of that fit in life. So the counseling sessions were incredibly helpful and set the stage for more deep counseling and therapy in the months to come with the counselor who I still have now. And I love her. She's amazing. And everybody needs a counselor in life. I will say that over and over again. Hear me out. Everyone should see a counselor. One thing we talked about in counseling too was how to prepare for the boys to visit. So this time in March was their spring break, and the boys were going to get to come down to Atlanta, Georgia to visit us. And my sister, Heather, and brother-in-law, Matt, graciously planned a trip with their 2 kids and our 2 boys. Carmen was not on spring break, so she didn't get to come. She would come separately, but the boys were coming to Atlanta in March, and it was a lot to prepare for. Remember, the boys have not seen Michael since that evening of February 5th when we were watching UVA basketball together in our living room before Michael's accident. They have not seen him. I did not bring him to the hospital. We FaceTimed earlier that week, but they've not seen him in person. So there was a lot riding on this visit, and I was honestly scared. I was scared of what was going to happen. So my prayers were that that he would just recognize them, that he would see them as his boys, that he would have this like relational interaction with them, because he was not relational with me. He was not relational at all. He did not acknowledge Carmen's presence when Carmen went to the hospital to see him. So I had that in my mind, like, this could go so poorly. But at the same time, like, they wanted to see him. They wanted to see me. Coming to Atlanta, Georgia was in itself exciting because our family, we are Atlanta Braves fans. So when the boys found out that Daddy was going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, they were like, the Braves. He's going to be with the Atlanta Braves. So like that was kind of fun. And they knew that they could come down and they got to tour the Battery, and we didn't see a game, but anyway, that was just part of the fun and the incentive for getting down here. But my biggest prayer was that meeting Daddy would go well. So the day came, they all fly to Atlanta. Michael and I go up to the family lounge on like, what is it, the 7th floor, where it's this great meeting space. There's like game tables, a nice fireplace and a TV. There's a little kitty corner and a little kitchenette. So it was the perfect meeting spot. So Michael and I are there, and Heather and I had been texting when I knew when they were going to arrive. So you can hear down the long hallway all the pitter patter of the 4 little children coming down the hall and their little tiny voices talking. So Michael and I stand up, which is significant because no one has been around Michael standing. The last time Matt and Heather saw Michael, he was in his hospital bed. And of course, the boys hadn't seen him at all. So we stand up and they all come around the corner, and like Michael just immediately enters dad mode. And I remember just standing back and watching, and Heather's got some videos and pictures from it that I'll share on Instagram. But Michael, like the boys are gentle with him. He goes to hug Brooks first and like tries to pick him up, but Michael has lost so much strength. He cannot pick him up, which is unusual. So he just gives him this big hug, and then it's Ryland's turn. And again, he tries to pick Ryland up, but he can't. So he gives Ryland a hug, and Ryland is just like beaming at his dad. Just the pictures, and you can see Ryland's sweet little face, are just precious. Brooks too, but Brooks is more reserved, which goes along with he is 10 going on 11. He knows a little bit more about what's happening. And then after he hugs our boys, Jack, his nephew, comes up. And now Jack was little enough that Michael scooped him up. And just to see Michael hold Jack's arms are thrown around Uncle Michael's neck. It was precious. Like Michael did exactly what he needed to do in that moment in greeting all of us. And then he, gave Heather and Matt and Remy hugs, and we all sit down on the couches and just kind of like settle in. And our boys sit on either side of Michael, and Michael immediately puts his hand on Brooks's back and starts scratching his back, and just kind of continues to just rub and scratch his back the whole time, just like he used to do. So I remember thinking, wow, this is blowing my mind right now. This is such an answer to prayer that Michael is acting somewhat fatherly to them. Now, you'll see in the images, I'm not savvy enough I don't even know how to put them on this thing. I wish I could integrate pictures and images on this podcast, but whatever, here we are. You'll just have to go to Instagram to see it. The boys are sitting on either side of him. He is like physically engaged in their presence, but you can see like the look on Michael's face is just distant. Like his eyes look different. He's not very conversational. He will answer our questions, but of course we start talking about their day. Like, yeah, Daddy, we got on a plane. We flew from Virginia to Atlanta, and Michael's confused. He's like, a plane? Atlanta? And so then it's the reorienting Michael. It's, yeah, Michael, we're here in Atlanta at this place called the Shepherd Center because you're a patient in the hospital. So all of our family members here just flew on an airplane to get to us. And he's just like, that is weird. What are you talking about? So he's not following the train of thought of what just happened. So it's both. It's this, we're so excited. This is going well. The boys are here. I have my squishies in my hand again. And Michael has his boys on either side of him. This is joyous reunion, but also a lot has changed. You can tell, when I look back at pictures of this moment, not at the time that this was all happening, but now when I look back and I look at Brooks and I see like his body language, I see his facial expressions, the posture that he was sitting in, I'm like, yes, that is the moment. This is the moment when things were really beginning to sink in for the kids of like, wow, things have changed. That was like the end of the beginning of life as they knew it, right? Like we were now beginning the new chapter of life with Dad in his new self. And we don't know how much Michael was going to heal at that time. He has healed tremendously since then. We are not back to where we were. We don't know where it's going. However, in that moment, that's, their first interaction with the new dad. Like, I can see it now, and it's kind of sobering just to look back, because that's honestly what a lot of my struggles still today are the parent-child struggles, the way our kids are missing Michael, the way our kids are missing Daddy, the way he is different, the way he has changed. That's pretty much one of the hardest things that we deal with still. So to look back and see those moments are like, yeah, this, I see, like it was still good. They needed to see him, but this is when it happened. So we had a good initial first, I think it was like an hour-long visit with all of them upstairs. It was Matt and Heather kind of led the conversation, and they would direct it towards me. How is therapy going? What does therapy look like? And Michael would like look at me like, what do you mean therapy? Because I would describe, yes, we go to about 30 to 60 minutes of physical therapy, and we do this. We're just starting to do exercises. And he'd be like, huh? Again, he just didn't have the memory of it. So we took the boys down. We all went to go see Daddy's room, which was just awkward. Hospital rooms are not comfortable. Like, they're only nice when you're visiting somebody who just had a baby. Other than that, they're pretty awful. So that was awkward, didn't last long. And now we had planned a fun weekend for the boys. They got to go to things like the aquarium, the Coca-Cola museum, the Lego store and museum, and the Atlanta Braves park. And Michael's dad, Bill, had also driven down so that he could be there that weekend too, to just be by Michael's side while I was off with the boys. Cause I didn't like, it was really difficult when I was not with Michael. He was more confused. He wouldn't cooperate. He was more agitated. So I was really grateful to have Michael's dad there so that I could have more peace of mind as I went off to the aquarium and did the fun things with the boys. The aquarium was kind of like, I think the boys were having a good time, but it was really hard for me to have one foot in each world. I was caregiver at the hospital with my husband, and then one foot in the world of being mom. It was what was difficult about being home in February was also difficult about this weekend together. Like, I didn't know how to be both. I was not fully present. My mind, I felt like the fish in the tank at the aquarium, that I would just stare into the aquarium and watch the fish float by and the starfish kind of walk on the window. And I'm like, yeah, this is how I feel, just kind of floating in this reality. And someone would be like, Earth to Megan, we're moving on to the penguins. And I'd be like, yeah, be right there. That's just how I felt, kind of dazed, not really feeling deeply, not feeling joy. I remember looking around and feeling jealousy towards families that were together, jealousy towards moms and dads who were doing vacation time together, wondering, will that ever be us again? Will we have moments where our family unit is happy and normal, and dad is capable? Dad can hold them on their shoulders when they're tired. Dad can help. Dad can keep them in line. Or like, will I never have that again? So being out in a public space like the aquarium and the museums, that was new for me because I have been at the hospital this whole time, right? Since the accident. So to go out and just be normal was really hard. I couldn't. I could put a smile on my face for the sake of the boys. And I truly loved being with them. And I loved being with Heather and Matt and their kids. And there were moments where I could laugh and smile, but like there was a distance, and it was painful. I also remember for the first time seeing an AED device on the wall, like looking up and seeing in the corner, like the emergency signs of, should you need it, here it is, the defibrillator, and just realizing, oh yeah, there it is. That's the device that saved my husband's life. And here it is in the aquarium. And I bet you'll start seeing them all over the place now. Just everything had a pull back to reality, and it was hard. It was hard to experience the Battery, the Atlanta Braves home baseball stadium, without Michael. Like, it just felt wrong. Like, I was taking my boys there without Michael. Like, Daddy is the reason they're the biggest Braves fans in the world. And yet he is over in the hospital. He's not here. We are here because he's here. He is in Atlanta. That's why we're here. We're not here as a family taking a trip to go see this sports game. And like, I am a baseball mom, but I don't know. I don't keep stats. I don't know all of the players. I don't know all the rules. I don't know how to coach and teach my boys these things. So it was just like, it was just so sad. It was so sad. It was so beautiful and joyful to have Ryland and Brooks like wide-eyed and loving being in Atlanta and seeing the Braves park. And of course, Ryland was on the hunt for a Ronald Acuna Jr. jersey, and that he is my shopper. He loves some retail therapy. So he was delighted, and I was delighted to get him that jersey too. But just like so sad. I remember, actually, what I don't remember is saying goodbye to them when they had to leave, because it was so painful. It was so painful to leave them, to say goodbye, knowing that I had weeks till I could be home with them again, and knowing that when I got to come home to be with them again, like life would not be the same, because we didn't know what version of Michael we'd be bringing home. So just like, it's an ending. It's an ending of life the way we knew it. It was a goodbye, not knowing what the future was going to be like. So it's bizarre that I don't have any memory of the end of our time together in Atlanta. I think because it was so painful for me. And of course, like, Michael couldn't share in that. Like, he said goodbye in the moment, but like, he didn't, a minute later, it was out of his mind. A minute later, he did not know that he had just seen his boys, that they had just been there, that I was upset because I had to say goodbye to them. And it was like the saying goodbye to your kids also, like, again, the idea of me living with one foot in each world, like, I was saying goodbye because I had made a choice to leave them. I had made a choice to be with Michael here in Atlanta, which meant that I was saying no, not now, to being mom at home with my kids. And of course, our family came alongside and made that transition as easy as possible. And they loved on and took care of the boys and Carmen, but I still didn't, like, I was choosing not to. So like, there's that internal battle of like guilt of what is right? Where should I be right now? Who needs me the most? Where do I need to be? It wasn't a matter of like, what does Megan need? It's a matter of what is best for the family right now. And I landed on the camp of being with Michael, which was a really big sacrifice on the other side of that, to not be with the kids. Just, yeah, it's like sitting in this turmoil and grief and guilt and fear of the future and the fear of the unknown. Like, yeah, that it was just, March typically is a favorite month of mine. It's my birthday month. It's the beginning of spring. Like, new life is happening. Flowers are coming out of their buds. Trees are blossoming. And normally I love March, but March was like becoming darker and darker and darker for me. And it was just not a fun place to be. Like, I could only find my joy in those tiny little things, like the delicious cup of coffee from the coffee shop across the street, or the donut at that shop, or the I mean, I'm struggling to come up with examples of joy because they were very few and far between, but it was hard. And I honestly don't have much encouragement to leave us from in this episode, but I will read the scripture. I'll read from Psalm 73. Rebecca Butterfield, who I had on the show a couple weeks ago, she would update Carrying Bridge for me, and she would always end on a Psalms. And the update after the boys, she ended on Psalm 73, starting in verse 23. Nevertheless, I am continually with you. You hold my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will receive me to glory. Who have I in heaven but you? And there is nothing on earth that I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And I think that was so timely for me, because I had to rely on God to be my strength and my portion, because my flesh and my heart were failing. I couldn't come up with joy, right? But I only had the strength of the Lord to hold me and guide me. And that continues through the rest of March. So I will pick up next time with more of our experience in Atlanta. Thank you for joining me. We'll be together next episode. Thanks, guys.